Hello, I'm Brad Hadank, and welcome to Sportspage. In this program, we talk with the athletes, coaches, and staff who work to make University of Central Missouri Athletics one of the premier college sports programs in the MIAA and Division II as a whole. This is Sportspage. Our first guest today is Jennies Golf head coach Chris Port, who's in his 13th season with the Jennies. Coach Port is currently the one and only head coach all-time of Jennies Golf, as he started the program during the 2012-2013 school year. He's led the Gens to the NCAA Division II Women's Golf Championship Tournament twice, once in the 2018-19 season where the Jennies finished 15th, and then again in the 2021-2022 season where they finished a program's best 14th in Gainesville, Georgia. And Coach Port is no stranger to UCM as he played golf for the Mules from 1990 to 1992 under who else but the current head coach of Mules Golf, Tim Poe. So with all of that, we welcome Coach Chris Port to Sportspage.
Brad, good to be here.
So Coach Port, let's talk about this last fall for Jennies Golf. You had 3 tournament titles, a 3rd place finish and a 5th place finish in your 5 tournaments, if I have that correct. Mm-hmm. So how much of a success is that fall?
It's a great fall. The 3 wins is nice, and quite honestly, I think the best tournament we had was our 5th place finish down in Dallas. That field had 13 teams, and 10 of them were ranked in the top 25, so that was a really good finish for us down there, but we love to get the wins.
So can you talk me through the team this season? Who's playing well? How's the team gelling? How's that going?
Really for us this year, it's a little bit different. Normally we've had a little bit bigger roster, usually 9, 10, 12 kids. Just the way the recruiting fell the last couple of years, and with the COVID kids leaving, we ended up with 6 this year. So we have a very veteran roster. Nicole Rollo is a senior. She's played all 4 years as a starter. Kiki Bruner is a senior academically. She's a redshirt junior. Kiki's played in and out of the lineup for the last couple of years, and then this year she's been in the lineup every time. MIAA Rollo is a junior. Libby Green is currently listed as a junior. We're hoping she's going to get 1 year back, which would be nice for us. MIAA McVeigh is a sophomore, and then we have a freshman from Warrensburg, Reese Nemo.
So you've talked about those just 6 athletes on the roster. Normally 5 go to tournaments. So how does that work with just a small roster?
We qualify for every event, and we haven't changed that even with the small roster. Obviously, I think this year the roster's been pretty set. We did, however, Nicole's been dealing with an injury all fall, and we did not play her in the last event, so Reese got a chance to play. So
could you talk me through qualifying? How does qualifying work?
So we'll play 4 or 5 rounds typically out at Mules National. The low 5 scores will go, and then after our first event, we typically, if a player finishes in the top 20 individually, they're exempt for the next event. Those players that aren't in the top 20 come home and qualify again. So typically, when we have a bigger roster, we've got kids qualifying at home while we're at a tournament, and then a couple kids will advance from that qualifying to go against the kids that didn't finish in the top 20 coming out of the tournament.
So talking about that roster and kind of recruiting for a second, how does recruiting work out for golf? Could you talk me through that?
Well, we'll spend, I think we do a really good job of identifying kids early in the process. I like with Libby, who you're going to talk to in a few minutes, we started watching her in her freshman year in high school and just kind of stayed with it, and we're fortunate enough to get her to come here. But that's, typical for us. We're identifying kids in their freshman and sophomore year that we think can be a real benefit to us. And then usually in their junior year, we're really starting to make a big push to get them to commit. So that's the typical process. We'll travel, throughout the Midwest to tournaments. I'll recruit pretty much every state that touches Missouri.
So, and 4 of 6 of the players on the roster right now are from Missouri, 1 from Warrensburg. So you've talked about that local talent. Is that a big thing for Jennies Golf?
Well, if you look at the history of the program, most of our really good players have come from 3 hours away, from no more than 3 hours away. We've had several good players just off the Kansas side in Kansas. We've gotten several good players out of St. Louis. I've always felt that there's enough talent in the Midwest for us to be competitive at the national level.
So at this point in the season, you're finished with fall tournaments, if I have that correct. So now it's a little dead time kind of until the spring. What goes on in this time between fall and spring for the golf team?
Sure, we give the kids a couple weeks off right after the last tournament, so they will probably not start back any activities until November 1st. Then in November, twice a week, we'll play 9 holes. We're allowed 4 hours to be with the kids and work with them, and we'll do that through the Thanksgiving break. When the kids come back after Thanksgiving, we typically don't do anything with them, and then when they roll back in for the first day of class, we start into practice for the spring, and we go from there to the end of the season.
So there's 2 distinct seasons, if you will, the fall and the spring season for golf. Do those kind of mesh together at any point, or are they 2 very distinct?
Well, the spring is our championship season. The fall is our non-championship. So in the fall, we're restricted on the amount of days that we can compete. We have a 60-day window to compete in. But from a ranking standpoint, from an importance standpoint, the fall tournaments are just as important as all the spring tournaments.
And looking at those rankings, you were 15th in the rankings last time I checked. Do you look at those rankings at all? Do those matter to you?
No, I really don't look at the rankings very much. I mean, it's nice for the kids to be ranked. It shows the work that they're putting in. Obviously, it helps some with recruiting. But generally, at the end of the year, getting out of the regional is what matters, and rankings don't have anything to do with that.
So you said your Jennies have a little bit of time off before this spring start, or November at least, you said. What was kind of the message going into this kind of dead period?
I told them when we got back we'd had a great fall, and but we needed to get better. And this team, the last 2 years, we've, for all intents and purposes, had a failure at the regional and didn't get out when we should have. And I think this team is really focused on the fact that they don't want that streak to continue, and they're not getting ahead of themselves, and they know they've got to get better all through the spring. So that the message doesn't really have to be conveyed by me. They know what they need to do to get out of that regional come springtime.
And if you're talking to someone who's looking at this Jennies from an outside perspective, what would be your message to them? What do they need to know about this Jennies team this season?
They're really good, but we need to get better. I mean, that's my message to the team. That's my message to anybody that asks. We've had a great fall, but that last tournament is all that matters at this point.
So you started this program in 2012 and have been here now for 13 seasons, and you keep building them. I mean, Jennies golf seems to be trending up. How do you keep that success going for all of those years?
Well, we've been fortunate. We have great facilities that the university has provided us. The university has given us good budgets. From the time we started the program, I've been at the max on scholarships, which matters. On the men's side, it's a lot easier to find players. There's just more. On the women's side, to get those really good players, you've really got to be able to go after them with big scholarship numbers. And again, kudos to the university for giving us the resources that we need to do that. And then obviously out at Mules National, the facilities have been great, and we continue to upgrade them with the Harbert Center coming online. So all of that has been really awesome, and it makes the recruiting piece a lot easier.
And talking about the Harbert Collegiate Golf Center, how much of a help has that been to your program, Jennies Golf?
Oh, it's been a huge help, and I mean, it's really just been online since the middle of the summer. But it's a great the kids have a place to go. They have lockers there. They can keep their stuff there. The coaches are able to meet with team members down there. I mean, for the last several years, Coach Poe really hasn't had an office, and I've had to use my office at the golf course. So it's great to have our own facility now. And obviously, when kids come in and see that kind of a facility, they're really only seeing those kind of facilities at the Power 65.
So talking about those facilities for a second, from your perspective as both head Jennies golf coach and as the head golf pro at Mules National, what went into that? Did you have any part of the Harbert Collegiate Golf Center, or did it just go
Coach
up?
Poe gets all the credit for that because he did the heavy lifting on the fundraising, and then obviously the foundation did a bunch of fundraising for that. But I think it was Tim's vision that really set the stage for the Harbert Center, and it was his relationship with Rand that really made the lead donation possible.
So talking about Coach Poe for a second, you played under Coach Poe from 1990 to 1992 as a Mules golfer. How much has that relationship helped out the Mules and Jennies golf programs?
I mean, Tim and I have worked together for the last 30 plus years, so we have a great relationship, and obviously we kick things around with each other. And quite honestly, when we started the women's program, a lot of our recruiting success was based on what everybody knew about UCM men's golf, and I think he has an incredible streak going. They've made the regional every year since it started, so I think he's at 31 or 32 years that he's made the regional. That kind of consistency is hard to find, and obviously I've taken a lot of things from Tim over the years to use in our program.
So talking about Mules and Jenny's Golf, you use the same facilities. There must be some cohesion there, if there is at all. Is there a lot of cohesion, or are there two very distinct programs?
I mean, he runs his program his way, I run my program my way, but the kids are on the range every day together. We typically are qualifying a lot of the same days, so there is a lot of interaction between the two rosters for sure.
And one thing about athletics is academics in athletics. You've coached over 70 MIAA academic honor roll athletes. How do you keep academics a big part in your athletic program?
Well, we've been fortunate. I think that kids that are individual sport type kids are more prone to self-discipline, and obviously when you're coaching on the female side of things, the kids tend to probably be a little more academically focused from the get-go. But we've been, our kids miss more school than anybody, and there isn't a program on campus that's going to be out of class more than we are. They do a fantastic job staying on top of their academics, and I think the last 10 years our GPA for the team's been between 3.5 and 3.75, so kudos to them for all the work that they put in academically, because they're putting in an awful lot of work for me on the golf course.
And one of the things we talked about you is your role as both the head golf professional at Mules National and the Jenny's golf head coach. One of the big things in golf in recent years was COVID-19. It drew a lot of people to golf. Have you seen a lot of changes there from either perspective? Are there more golfers you can recruit? Mm-hmm. Is it better play, or is there just not really much change?
Well, I think on both sides. From the Mules National side of things, COVID really exploded golf, and we've continued to see that growth. I mean, we've set record round numbers out there year after year since COVID, and at this point, I don't really know that that's going to slow down. So that's been fantastic for the facility. Golf-wise, for athletics, it was interesting. I think after COVID, we saw a lot of kids that played other ball and stick sports, softball, tennis. They weren't able to play, but the golf courses stayed open. So, I can tell you 2 or 3 recruits that were big-time softball players that in 2020, when COVID hit, kind of transitioned to golf, and then they stuck with golf and have been really good. They're really good players. So, yeah, so I think from an athletic standpoint, COVID pushed several good athletes into golf, and I don't know that we've seen more good players, but there are definitely players out there that used to play other sports that focused solely on golf after COVID.
And you've talked about those good athletes. They need good coaches, and you've been in golf for a long time. But when you graduated in '92, your degree read political science from Central Missouri State at the time. Yeah. Why political science? Was it ever a different goal than golf?
No. About halfway through college, I knew that I wanted to be in the golf business, and my focus in college was playing golf. And there came a point in time where I needed to get a degree, so I walked into my academic advisor and I said, what can I get a degree in? And political science was the shortest path to a degree, so technically that's how I ended up with a political science degree.
Okay, so looking at yourself, you've been head golf professional, head golf coach for the Jennies. Is there anything else on the horizon? What's big on the horizon for yourself?
No, I don't think that there's anything big for me on the horizon. I mean, we have a lot of goals in the program that we haven't accomplished that we want to continue to work on. Obviously, this year we want to do well in the postseason, and I think that the kids have some strong goals, but we don't really like to talk about that much. We just want to focus on the here and now. So that's pretty well how I go about it. We're going to focus on what's in front of us and not worry about anything else.
And just real quick, talking about what's in front of you, what is in front of you for Jenny's Golf, for the golf team?
Well, I mean, we've got the spring season coming up, so, the kids are going to get a little bit of a break. We're going to get right back to work. They'll go home over the Christmas break, and most of them will get after it pretty hard because they know that when they come in January, they got to be ready to go. We'll hope for some good weather over the winter because our first tournament's in the middle of February, and it's always nice that we've been out playing a little bit versus going cold, but that's typical for those of us that work in the northern climates here. So, the horizon is get better, get ready for the Southern Invite down in Houston, which is our first event, and then just kind of see where the season goes from there.
Well, Coach Port, congratulations on all of your success in building Jenny's Golf to what it is today, and best of luck in the spring. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to meet a golfer who was named as an MIAA Golfer of the Week recently. Jenny's golfer Libby Green joins us right after this. Welcome back to Sportspage. In this next segment, we'll be joined by Jenny's golfer Libby Green. Libby is a junior for Jenny's Golf who comes from Shawnee, Kansas. The Mill Valley High School product was recently an MIAA Golfer of the Week for a performance in Maryville, that being in the Midwest Fall Golf Classic. Libby won that 36-hole tournament with the strongest 18 holes Jenny's Golf has ever seen. A 6-under 66 in her first round was a program record, and Libby proceeded to win that tournament by 7 strokes. This win capped off a fall season for Libby that saw her with a scoring average just south of 74. So with all of that, please welcome Libby Green to Sportspage. So, Libby, let's start with that MIAA Golfer of the Week recognition. How does it feel to be recognized as one of the best in such a premier conference in golf?
It's an honor. I mean, a few of my other teammates have gotten this honor, and I just think that it says something about our program, having a few like MIAA Golfers of the Week on our team right now, and it's just a big honor because our conference really is pretty competitive when it comes to golf, so it's very much just a big honor.
So looking at that tournament that led you to being the MIAA Golfer of the Week, that 6-under 66, the program record, looking at your scores from tournament, non-tournament, is this the best score you've ever shot personally, or have you gone lower?
Oh, this is the best I've shot personally, like ever, even outside of competition. It was very exciting.
So there's a lot of pressure in tournaments. How do you go through that pressure? How do you fight through the pressure to shoot your best ever, as you just said?
I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty hard. I was telling my coach that personally the 66 was a lot harder than the second day, which I shot a lot higher than 66. But yeah, it's very stressful, I will say, because you're like trying to finish the last few holes and maybe you have to wait a little bit and you just need to try and mentally get focused enough to finish, and you want to finish strong. You don't want to finish on, a few bogeys and come out of it like, oh, well, I could have shot this. But I think I just kind of had it all together and I was able to finish really strong, which was what I was really happy about.
So day one of that tournament, you led by 7 strokes. You ended up winning that tournament by 7 strokes. How hard is it playing with a lead like that? Because I know that's not easy either.
It definitely, I don't know, it was easier than you might think. I feel like the second day was a lot tougher, and so it helped me a little bit because I knew if I made a few mistakes that it didn't matter as much as if it was a lot closer of a tournament. And so I didn't feel like I had to, quote unquote, like grind as much as I would have if it was a lot closer. And it was kind of a little bit more easy because I played with the girls that were like behind me by a few, and so I kind of knew where I was at the whole time.
So in that tournament, what was working for you? I mean, I'd imagine everything, but was there something that was just like, wow, this is really working today?
I would say I putted really well, which is really important on that golf course because those greens are really tough, and also just getting it pretty close to the pin and in the right spots, which is what I did. But just kind of I kept telling myself to not get greedy out there, because if you try and hit a putt like too hard, all of a sudden you hit it way too far past and you maybe have a 3-putt bogey on your hands. And I just think it was really important to putt well at that tournament. So
it said on the website you started that tournament on hole 1, so you were 1 over through your first 3, then you birdied 6 of your next 9. How do you bounce back like that in a round?
It was just kind of one of those things where I know that I have a few holes ahead of me that are pretty good birdie opportunities, and I birdied the 3rd hole, which was a par 5, and it was a pretty short hole for me, and I wasn't very happy about that, but I just kept telling myself, you can come back from this. There's a lot of holes ahead of you. Coach Port always says play where your feet are, so it's just kind of stay in the moment and don't get ahead of yourself.
So in high school, you won state in 2020, if I have that right. Then your first year, you didn't really get to play here in 2022-23. How do you work through that? How do you wait your turn and show that resilience to get where you are today?
It was pretty tough, I'll say, because I feel like coming out of high school golf, a lot of freshman golfers are, they're like, oh, I want to play, but for me, it was just kind of one of those things where I come in and I'm like, I want to get better, and Coach Port helped me a lot with getting better, and my teammates pushed me a lot because of how competitive our team was. We had 10 my freshman year, and so, there's a lot of good golfers on that team. So, yeah, just focusing on getting better was really important to me.
And last season, your scoring average was around 77. This fall, it was just south of 74. Those 3 strokes, that's big 3 strokes to shave off. How did you do it in such a short amount of time?
I think I made a lot of mental, I did a lot better mentally, I would say, because I think it was there. I showed it in the spring season. I had a few good rounds in the spring compared to the fall where I really struggled mentally. But just kind of having that confidence mentally, and again, like I said, not getting ahead of yourself on the golf course, and not, getting greedy and like, oh, I want to make a birdie here. Like, okay, let's just try and get it on the green, 2-putt, and let's just try and make a par. So I think that really helped me a lot, just mentally focusing better.
So you've talked about mentality, you've talked about putting. You know how to go low. It's really hard in golf to go low. Is that those kind of the keys? What is the key to going low? Because obviously everything has to work, but what are the big keys?
I would say being able to attack the course in a way where you can make a good amount of birdies is pretty important to going low, and also just the mental side of golf is very, very important. Because you see a lot of golfers who struggle mentally, but they have a great swing, or they're great putters, or everything like that. But I think it's probably like 90% mental is what everyone always says. So yeah, just being able to make birdies and mentally being strong.
So talk me through the team this year. Only 6 golfers on the team this season. You have different dynamics. 2 sisters, 2 underclassmen. Kiki's the only one not from like the Missouri, Kansas area. How do you all gel as a team?
My teammates are basically like my sisters. I live with 3 of them. I live with the 2 Rallo sisters and Kiki. And it's always a good time. They're pretty hilarious, and I really love spending time with them. And at the end of the day, they just push me to be a better person, a better golfer, and just they're always there for me. So it's really important that I think our relationship is very important. And even though it's a small team, like, we still are able to, we don't get tired of each other. Because that was what we were worried about in the beginning, was like, oh, we live with each other, and Maya is on our floor too. So we're like, what if we get tired of each other this year because we're in the van together so much? But we really haven't. It really hasn't done anything to our relationship, but make it stronger.
So 3 first-place finishes in the fall. Is that tight-knit group maybe why? Like, what leads to that success, would you say? Does that help at all?
I think it definitely helps. I think there's a point where we are all trying to work towards this goal together, and also at the same time, like, I know that it's probably going to be Nicole and Kiki's last year, and I want them to go out with a bang because they're my best friends, and I just think it's really important this year that we're all so close.
So talk me through the coaching staff for a second. Coach Port being the head coach, how much has the coaches helped you become the golfer you are right now?
Oh my gosh, so much. Coach Port, he knows a lot about golf, and it's his life, it's his job, obviously. But I think he really has made me a lot better of a golfer than I would have if I was anywhere else. He like I said, he knows so much. We have this stat program, it's called Decade Golf, and he knows all the stats, and he's like, oh, this is good, this is not good, like, you need to work on this, and that's been really, really helpful for like what we have to work on specifically. So yes, he definitely has made a big difference in my golf game. So
you said Coach Port has helped you more than maybe anywhere else. Talk me through that recruiting process. Maybe you were very successful in high school, so there are probably obviously other schools in the mix. Why UCM in the end?
So there, obviously Coach Port, I knew he wanted me to be on the team really, really bad, and he always says, I'm going to recruit you really hard if he wants you really bad on his team. But looking at other schools, I guess, compared to here, our facilities here are really, very, very nice. Thanks to all of our donors and the university and everyone who helps behind the scenes. And I think that was a big part of it because most schools don't have an indoor facility. They don't have their own golf course. They don't have a clubhouse, which at the time I didn't have, I didn't know that was going to be a thing, but, and obviously we also have our own Sprinter van, which is it's very nice. So that was a big part of it. Yeah, and just knowing, I knew a few girls on the team and I knew their experiences were really good here. But I'm very, very happy with choosing UCM, obviously, because I see these other schools compared to here, and I'm like, oh, I had a really good deal.
Yeah.
So
you've alluded to it, the Harbert Collegiate Golf Center that was just built. How much of a help has that been for you and the Jennies team as a whole?
Oh, it's been very, very helpful. We love it there. We're very, like I said, very thankful for all the donors who made it possible in the university. And I think it's going to be very, very helpful in the future for recruiting because we have these recruits coming in and they're like, oh, wow, this is really nice. And I think also it makes an impact on their parents too because they're like, oh, I could see my kid here, spending some time here. And yeah, it's a great deal we have.
So the Harbert Collegiate Golf Center was built for both Mules and Jennies golf. How closely do you work with maybe the Mules golf team on a day-to-day basis?
We're pretty good friends with them. Yeah, I mean, we obviously see them on the course a lot. Our practice times are the same basically, and we'll see them in the clubhouse all the time. So, or when we're in the winter in the indoor, we're always playing games with them and stuff like that. So. It's pretty fun.
So we've talked about your success as a collegiate golfer. Was being a collegiate golfer always the goal, or was that more of a recent thing for you?
Yeah, I would say it's always been the goal. My sister played golf in high school, but she didn't play collegiately, and my dad really wanted me to go and play in college. So, but at the end of the day, it was my decision, and it's something I've always wanted.
So looking at the future for a second, you're an education major. Fall has come to a close in your junior year, if I have that right. Spring's on the horizon. So what do you see being next for you if you want to think that far ahead?
I am thinking I'm going to be a professor. So after college golf, I'm going to get my PhD and hopefully go teach history somewhere. That's just kind of, I don't know, it's something that's very interesting to me. My mom's a professor, so I think that'll be something I really like.
Well, Libby, congratulations on all of your success this fall. Best of luck in the spring and then beyond. That's all the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank our guests, Coach Chris Port and Libby Green, for joining me, and hope you'll tune in next time for Sportspage.